This case entered Judge Judy's courtroom, carrying years of toxic love, violence, addiction, and emotional destruction between two people who clearly should never have remained together as long as they did. Miss Butler and Mr. Torres stood before the court after a relationship filled with constant breakups, reconciliation, arguments, and physical abuse finally exploded into criminal charges and civil claims. Judge Judy had already reviewed the complaint and immediately understood the situation was far more serious than damaged furniture or spilled paint. 3 children were trapped in the middle of it. According to Miss Butler, the relationship had become unbearable after repeated fighting, emotional instability, and drug use slowly destroyed the household environment. But despite all the chaos, they kept going back to each other again and again. Judge Judy immediately addressed the criminal case first. Mr. Torres admitted there had already been a criminal proceeding involving the assault against Miss Butler. At first, he attempted minimizing the seriousness by saying he had not technically been convicted yet. But Judge Judy stopped him instantly. She explained clearly that his no contest plea essentially amounted to accepting guilt, regardless of whether sentencing had already taken place. The courtroom atmosphere immediately became tense. Mr. Torres admitted he was expecting jail time, probation, fines, and restitution related to the assault. According to the plea agreement, he faced approximately 6 months in jail, along with probation conditions. Judge Judy leaned forward sharply. "So you assaulted her?" "Yes," he admitted quietly. Miss Butler then explained how the relationship originally seemed hopeful before gradually collapsing into constant emotional conflict. The two lived together for roughly a year, along with their children inside a rented house. But everything deteriorated during a major argument in April. According to Miss Butler's, Mr. Torres suddenly demanded she move out immediately after accusing her of staying away too long during a trip helping her sister get to the airport. That argument quickly escalated into property destruction. She claimed Mr. Torres threw paint across furniture, damaged couches, and ruined brand new clothes by tossing them directly into spilled paint on the floor. Mr. Torres denied intentionally destroying anything. According to him, the paint spill happened accidentally during moving, and he merely attempted cleaning the mess afterward. Judge Judy reviewed the complaint carefully. Even according to Miss Butler's own written statement, the actual spilling of the paint can appear accidental, but the emotional conflict surrounding the situation clearly was not accidental at all. The judge then focused on the real issue beneath the argument. "What were you fighting about?" Mr. Torres admitted. He suspected Miss Butler had resumed using drugs during that period. According to him, both of them had struggled with marijuana use while attempting unsuccessfully to repair their relationship. Judge Judy immediately turned serious. "You were both using drugs in the house?" Both parties admitted they smoked marijuana. Then the judge asked the question neither seemed prepared for. "Where were the children during all this?" Both quickly insisted the children were never present around the drug use, but Judge Judy clearly did not believe them. The courtroom became uncomfortable immediately. According to the judge, children absorb everything happening inside unstable households, even when adults convince themselves the kids are unaware. Miss Butler insisted they never used drugs directly around the children. Mr. Torres repeated the same claim. But Judge Judy remained visibly skeptical. Then, the court returned to the paint incident. Miss Butler explained that after the paint spilled, Mr. Torres allegedly used her expensive clothing to soak up the mess, ruining items her sister had recently purchased for her. Mr. Torres denied intentionally damaging anything. Judge Judy carefully separated emotion from evidence. The actual spill appeared accidental, but the relationship itself had clearly become emotionally explosive long before that day. Then, Judge Judy asked the question that seemed to define the entire case. After all the arguments, after the paint, after the paint, after the screaming, why did they get back together again? Miss Butler lowered her voice. Because he came back begging. According to her, Mr. Torres lost his job after another fight and returned emotionally devastated, promising he wanted to change completely. He apologized, he cried. He promised the partying and drug use would end. And despite everything, she took him back. Judge Judy shook her head slowly. That was very foolish. Miss Butler admitted she had already sacrificed nearly everything emotionally and financially for the relationship. She ruined her credit, lost housing stability, moved her children repeatedly, and eventually became practically homeless because she kept trying to rebuild a future with Mr. Torres. Mr. Torres interrupted angrily, insisting she moved into his new home voluntarily. But Judge Judy ignored the interruption. The real issue was obvious now. This relationship had become destructive for everyone involved, especially the children. Then the courtroom shifted toward the assault itself. The assault occurred inside the new house after Miss Butler moved back in with him. According to her, the relationship only lasted another 3 weeks before violence erupted again. Photographs showing her injuries were handed to Judge Judy. The courtroom grew quiet. Judge Judy examined the injuries carefully before turning directly toward Mr. Torres. You punched her in the face? He admitted there had been physical violence, but attempted claiming Miss Butler attacked him first. According to him, earlier that day, she scratched him, hit him, and tore his shirt during an argument. Later that evening, after returning home around 10:30 p.m., another confrontation exploded. Miss Butler described something completely different. She said she had been lying in bed with the children nearby when Mr. Torres entered the house, screaming aggressively at everyone inside. According to her, when she defended the children, after he cursed around them, he sat beside her aggressively, pinched her leg painfully, and stared at her with obvious anger. She admitted slapping him, but, according to her, that single slap immediately triggered brutal violence. She claimed Mr. Torres began punching her repeatedly with closed fists, striking her over and over while the children remained inside the house, witnessing the chaos. At one point, she said she believed she might actually die. An ambulance eventually transported her for medical treatment. Mr. Torres insisted portions of her story were exaggerated. But then something changed. For the first time during testimony, he looked down and quietly admitted, I made the worst mistake of my life hitting her. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Judy stared at him carefully. If you're truly sorry, she asked, then you admit you injured her badly? Yes, he answered quietly, but Miss Butler immediately added something even more heartbreaking. It didn't just hurt me. My children have nightmares now. The emotional atmosphere inside the courtroom shifted instantly. Judge Judy leaned back slowly after hearing about the children's nightmares. At that moment, the case stopped being only about a violent relationship. It became about the emotional damage being passed directly onto innocent children, forced to grow up inside chaos. According to Judge Judy, the people she felt most sorry for were not even the adults standing in front of her, it was the children, because while both adults continued returning to a toxic relationship repeatedly, children had no choice. They were dragged back and forth through instability, arguments, drug use, and violence like emotional passengers, trapped inside someone else's destructive decisions. Miss Butler tried explaining herself emotionally. She said she only wanted to rebuild a stable life for her family. But Judge Judy interrupted firmly. The problem, according to the judge, was that Miss Butler repeatedly placed her own emotional attachment ahead of her children's emotional safety. Every time she returned to Mr. Torres, children returned too, again and again. Judge Judy explained that parents do not only make choices for themselves anymore once children are involved. Every bad relationship, every unstable household, every dangerous environment becomes something children are forced to absorb emotionally, whether adults realize it or not. Then, the courtroom became even more uncomfortable. Mr. Torres suddenly claimed that, despite the assault, despite the criminal charges, and despite everything said inside court, Miss Butler had continued returning to his house afterward. According to him, she visited multiple times after the incident, and even continued having consensual relations with him. During August, Miss Butler immediately denied it. The tension exploded again. "You're trying to make this my fault," she shouted emotionally. Judge Judy immediately stopped both sides before the argument spiraled further. Then she looked directly at Miss Butler. "You have responsibilities greater than your own happiness." The courtroom became silent again. According to Judge Judy, adults without children may choose destructive partners and only hurt themselves. But once children exist, situation changes completely. Parents no longer have the luxury of ignoring warning signs. The judge explained that Miss Butler may have made a terrible decision choosing Mr. Torres originally, continuing to expose her children to the relationship after repeated violence and instability became an even bigger mistake. Miss Butler quietly admitted she understood. Then Judge Judy turned toward Mr. Torres. "There's no question you assaulted her. The photographs alone made that obvious." According to the judge, the criminal court would already handle punishment for the physical violence, but civil court still existed to address the personal damages caused by the assault itself. Judge Judy acknowledged that some property damage likely occurred during the paint incident, but she explained clearly that ruined clothing and spilled paint were not truly the heart of the lawsuit. The real issue was violence, fear, and the emotional destruction caused inside that home. Then, Judge Judy addressed something neither adult seemed prepared to hear. "You are both responsible." The courtroom became still. According to the judge, Mr. Torres absolutely carried responsibility for the assault itself, but Miss Butler also carried responsibility for repeatedly returning herself and her children into an environment already proven dangerous. Judge Judy explained that both adults were still emotionally fighting, even while standing inside court. That alone proved the relationship remained unhealthy and unstable. Then the judge returned once again to the drug issue, and this time, her tone became colder. She openly admitted she did not believe either adult when they claimed drug use never happened around the children. At first, they claimed the children were elsewhere. Then they claimed smoking happened in the garage. The stories kept shifting. Judge Judy noticed immediately. According to her, children learn behavior directly from the adults raising them. And when children grow up, watching caregivers normalize drugs, violence, screaming, instability, and emotional chaos, those children often carry the same destruction into their own futures later. The courtroom remained completely quiet. Miss Butler softly promised she would change. Judge Judy nodded slightly but remained serious. According to the judge, real change does not come through promises made inside courtrooms. It comes through actions. Especially actions protecting children from unstable adults and dangerous environments. Finally, Judge Judy announced her decision. Mr. Torres would be held financially responsible for the civil damages connected to the assault. The injuries, shown in the photographs, were severe enough to justify compensation beyond the criminal consequences already coming. Judge Judy awarded Miss Butler $500 in damages. Then the case ended. But before the emotional atmosphere inside the courtroom could settle, another troubled relationship immediately stepped forward, this time involving a couple whose violent and unstable romance eventually left them homeless, living together inside a car. The next case, entering Judge Judy's courtroom, involved another toxic relationship that slowly collapsed into violence, instability, manipulation, and accusations of theft. Miss Gonzalez stood before the court, accusing her former boyfriend, Bruce Henderson, of stealing back a car he had supposedly sold to her after their breakup. But according to Mr. Henderson, he never actually sold the vehicle at all. Judge Judy quickly realized the situation was not really about a car. It was about two people trapped. It was about two people trapped inside a destructive relationship that had completely consumed their judgment. Miss Gonzalez explained that during the relationship, the couple became so unstable financially and emotionally that they eventually ended up living inside Mr. Henderson's 1970 Ford Mustang. Judge Judy looked stunned. "You were living in the car?" "Yes, Your Honor." The courtroom became quiet immediately. According to Miss Gonzalez, the relationship had already become violent, long before they ended up homeless. She described repeated incidents where Mr. Henderson allegedly shoved her, screamed at her, and caused disturbances serious enough for neighbors to call police multiple times. At one point, her own sister refused allowing Mr. Henderson near the house anymore because of the constant fighting, but despite all that, she still returned to him. Again, Judge Judy shook her head slowly. According to the judge, moving into a car together after repeated violence was terrible judgment from both sides. Miss Gonzalez admitted it was. Then the case turned toward the Mustang itself. According to Miss Gonzalez, after another breakup, Mr. Henderson agreed, selling her the vehicle for fine $500. She claimed he handed her a signed seal of sale and transferred possession of the car, but shortly afterward, according to her, he appeared outside her sister's house and secretly took the car back from the driveway. Mr. Henderson immediately denied everything. According to him, the Mustang was a prized possession, worth far more than $500, and he would never intentionally sell it. Judge Judy requested the bill of sale immediately. The courtroom grew tense while she examined it carefully. Then something strange appeared. The spelling of Mr. Henderson's name looked slightly wrong. Judge Judy noticed instantly. Why would he spell his own name incorrectly? Miss Gonzalez insisted he wrote it exactly that way himself. Mr. Henderson denied signing the document entirely. At first, it seemed the case might collapse completely. Then, Judge Judy began comparing the bill of sale against handwritten letters Mr. Henderson previously sent to Miss Gonzalez. The atmosphere inside the courtroom changed immediately. According to Miss Gonzalez, after the breakup, Mr. Henderson continued writing emotional letters and contacting her repeatedly. Judge Judy studied every detail carefully: the handwriting, the loops in the letters, the way names were written. Ports slowly started matching. Meanwhile, Mr. Henderson continued changing his explanation. At first, he denied writing the bill of sale completely. Then he admitted writing something similar. Then he claimed it was only meant as temporary permission, allowing her to drive the vehicle around without legal trouble. Judge Judy immediately caught the inconsistency. So now you admit writing it? Mr. Henderson became visibly nervous. According to him, he may have written portions of the document as a joke or prank involving his parents. One, he insisted it was never intended as an actual sale. Judge Judy was no longer convinced. The courtroom became increasingly uncomfortable for Mr. Henderson as the contradictions piled up. Miss Gonzalez then introduced another important detail. According to her, Mr. Henderson intentionally wrote a future date on the document, so she would be unable to register the car before he stole it back. She believed he accepted the money while already planning to reclaim the vehicle later. Judge Judy listened carefully. Then she examined the document again. The VIN number appeared correctly listed. The license plate matched. The amount of $500 appeared clearly written, and most importantly, handwriting strongly resembled Mr. Henderson's letters. Finally, under pressure, Mr. Henderson admitted writing much more of the document than he originally claimed. Judge Judy immediately stopped him. "Oh yes, you did, sir." The courtroom fell silent. According to the judge, after comparing all the writing samples, she fully believed Mr. Henderson created the bill of sale himself. His changing explanations destroyed his credibility completely. Mr. Henderson still insisted he never truly intended selling the car, but Judge Judy explained something important. Petitions stop mattering once signed documents, money exchanges, and possession transfers happen. The evidence now pointed clearly toward a sale. Miss Gonzalez argued emotionally that she believed Mr. Henderson manipulated the situation from the beginning. According to her, he accepted her money while planning to reclaim both the vehicle and the cash later. Judge Judy nodded slightly. Given the contradictory testimony, the judge clearly found that theory believable. Finally, Judge Judy ruled in favor of Miss Gonzalez for the full $500 value of the Mustang. Mr. Henderson looked furious. Miss Gonzalez looked emotionally relieved, but before either side fully processed the judgment, Another emotionally explosive family dispute immediately entered the courtroom, this time involving two sisters, a bicycle, a broken window, and years of buried resentment finally exploding into open conflict. Part 4. Judge Judy's next case involved something much deeper than money. At first glance, it appeared to be a simple disagreement over a bicycle worth only $150, but within minutes, Judge Judy realized the real issue involved years of emotional resentment, family exhaustion, unpaid favors, and a relationship between sisters that had completely collapsed. Miss Coleman sued her sister and brother-in-law after purchasing a bicycle for him and never receiving payment. According to Miss Coleman, her brother-in-law admired a bike similar to one she owned and asked her to buy one for him. At first she hesitated, but, according to her, her sister promised the bike would absolutely be paid for one way or another. Trusting her family, she bought it. Then the problems started. The bike was delivered, but the money never came. According to the defendants, however, the situation became complicated because family tensions exploded almost immediately afterward. Judge Judy tried piecing together the emotional history between the sisters. And the deeper she looked, uglier the situation became. The sisters admitted they once spent enormous amounts of time helping each other, babysitting children, sharing clothes, lending cars, supporting each other financially. But underneath that cooperation, years of frustration quietly built up. Miss Coleman accused her sister of constantly taking advantage of her generosity. Meanwhile, her sister insisted she had sacrificed equally and felt manipulated emotionally by Miss Coleman for years. The bicycle simply became the final breaking point. Then, the courtroom turned toward the window incident. According to the defense, Miss Coleman showed up angrily at the apartment, demanding the bicycle back. When nobody immediately handed it over, emotions exploded. Miss Coleman admitted becoming upset after her brother-in-law ignored her and refused returning the bike. According to her, confrontation became emotional because she already felt deeply hurt and disrespected by her own family. Then came the accident. While banging on the window during the argument, glass shattered. Miss Coleman severely injured her hand, slicing an artery and tendon badly enough to cause blood everywhere inside the house. Even Judge Judy looked disturbed, hearing the injury details. But what shocked the courtroom most was what happened afterward. According to Miss Coleman, instead of showing concern, her sister focused more on the carpet and property damage than the serious injury itself. The emotional tension inside the courtroom immediately exploded again. Her sister defended herself aggressively, insisting Miss Coleman arrived screaming, cursing, and causing chaos outside the apartment in front of neighbors. Judge Judy interrupted sharply. "That's still your sister." Silence followed. According to the judge, regardless of how angry the situation became, basic humanity should have mattered more than arguments over property. Then Judge Judy turned directly toward the brother-in-law. "You asked her to buy the bicycle?" "Yes." "And you still have it?" "Yes." "Then pay for it." The simplicity of the judge's logic instantly cut through the emotional noise filling the courtroom, but the brother-in-law tried defending himself. According to him, he intended paying eventually, but became frustrated because Miss Coleman repeatedly called the house, demanding money, and discussing the issue publicly, with family members and neighbors. He insisted the argument escalated because everyone kept embarrassing each other emotionally. Judge Judy listened briefly, then stopped him. None of that changed the basic facts. He requested the bike, she purchased it, and he kept it without paying. 1. Then, another disagreement surfaced regarding whether a $50 down payment had already been made. The parties argued loudly, back and forth, while Judge Judy tried determining the truth. Miss Coleman denied receiving any down payment. The brother-in-law insisted he paid cash, but no proof existed. Eventually, Judge Judy stopped the chaos completely. According to the judge, the deeper problem clearly was not really the bicycle. The real issue was years of emotional imbalance between family members who no longer trusted each other. But legally, the answer remained simple. You cannot keep property someone else purchased for you without paying. And you certainly cannot use unrelated family arguments as justification. Judge Judy ruled in favor of Miss Coleman for the full $150 cost of the bicycle. Then came one final emotional moment. The defendants asked again about the broken window. Judge Judy dismissed it completely. According to the judge, the shattered glass happened during an emotional family confrontation, where the plaintiff herself suffered the worst injury. The court was not going to punish her further for that accident. As the sisters prepared leaving the courtroom, emotional distance between them looked far greater than any financial judgment could ever repair, and Judge Judy seemed to understand that immediately. Because sometimes saddest courtroom cases are not the ones involving strangers. They're the ones involving families who once loved each other deeply before resentment slowly destroyed everything. After the sisters left the courtroom, Judge Judy briefly looked down at the next case file before calling the next parties forward, and immediately, atmosphere changed again. This time, the courtroom centered around emotional dependency, unstable relationships, violence, and people who repeatedly confused love with chaos. Judge Judy explained something carefully before moving to the next testimony. According to her, many people trapped inside toxic relationships continue returning, not because they are happy, because instability slowly becomes emotionally normal, fear becomes normal, arguments become normal, violence becomes normal, and eventually, people stop recognizing how dangerous the environment really is. The earlier cases had already shown the same pattern repeatedly. Couples separating, then reuniting, families forgiving betrayal, then being hurt again, people making emotional decisions they later regretted deeply. Judge Judy warned that when adults repeatedly ignore obvious warning signs, children almost always become the biggest victims later. According to the judge, children raised inside unstable homes often learn unhealthy emotional behavior long before they are old enough to understand it. That damage sometimes lasts forever. Then the courtroom discussion shifted back, briefly, toward the earlier Mustang case, because Judge Judy wanted making one point absolutely clear: documents matter, evidence matters, and changing stories destroy credibility. She explained that one reason Mr. Henderson lost the case was because his testimony changed repeatedly once evidence appeared contradicting him. First, he denied writing the document, then admitted portions of it, then admitted almost all of it. According to Judge Judy, honest people generally tell one consistent story from the beginning. The courtroom remained quiet while she explained this. Then Judge Judy returned again to the family bicycle case. According to the judge, family members often destroy relationships permanently over surprisingly small amounts of money. Because the real issue usually is not the money itself. It is resentment. People begin mentally keeping score for years. Ho helped more. Ho sacrificed more. Ho was taken advantage of. Ho was unappreciated. And eventually, one small argument becomes the emotional explosion that releases years of buried anger all at once. The judge explained that by the time people finally arrive inside courtrooms, real emotional damage already happened long before. Then she paused again, because another difficult relationship case was already waiting outside, and once more. Next courtroom battle would involve violence, emotional instability, broken trust, and people who stayed together far longer than they should have.